We've got a huge reveal. Teen isn't sure of who he actually is, and Lilia put the coven on her back and was like, I got you, fam. What's going on, Marvelites? Today we are talking about episode 7 of Agatha All Along, Death's Hand in Mind. Let me just start off with, we need to give all of the awards to Jack Schaefer and Patty Lupone after that episode. My goodness. I mean, episode 6 said it was the best episode yet. This episode has now trumped that. This is literally, quite possibly, one of the best episodes of television ever filmed, unless they fumble the bag in the last 2 episodes, which I can't foresee that happening. Agatha All Along is undoubtedly the best MCU television show that they have made to date. I'll even go out there and say this right now. Agatha All Along is easily and arguably one of the best live action Marvel projects in totality that they have ever done to date. I've said it before and I feel like I say it every time I do one of these videos, but the practical sets are absolutely stunning. And just the camera work and what they've done and relied on like old school Hollywood techniques, this stuff is, it's absolutely setting this show apart, and they're doing absolutely wonders with it. Again, like the camera work, the editing, everything that was done in this episode was just like chef's kiss. Jack Schaefer and the rest of the writers and the team have done a really, really good job with the writing on this show. Given what we saw with Lilia and all of her visions and all of them kind of coming together in this episode, which we'll talk a little bit more later, as I look back and I think about the other episodes, I feel like there is not a single line, maybe even a word for that matter, that does not have some sort of importance or significance within this show. The other thing that makes this show so good, and we've seen this done throughout all of the episodes, but particularly this one, this episode of course definitely had a very serious tone the entire time, but the fact that they're able to continue to have comedic relief through one-liners, in particular Jen with this one, she's had them throughout the series, but Jen, man, she had some lines, some hilarious lines in this episode. I loved it. But like the fact that they're able to provide appropriate comedic relief, but also continue to maintain a serious tone to the episode, I think also is absolutely an ode to what the writers have been able to do within this show. As most of us knew, this episode was all about Lilia. We knew that it was probably going to be her trial, and my goodness, Patty Lupone put on a masterclass in how to act, and she just continued to prove even more how amazing of an actress she is. Given what we saw in this episode for Lilia, one, the fact that she's been living life out of order essentially is absolutely wild. I can't even wrap my mind around the fact that someone could live that way, right? Like if you think about like living your life out of order, how wild that would be. But also I realized after, like at the end of the episode, like we experienced the episode how Lilia has experienced her entire life basically. But I really feel like this episode really put some respect on Lilia's name, as I said in the title. We clearly know each witch has their own importance within their role on the road. We knew that that was going to happen, and we've kind of seen clues as to each witch will have their own trial, and their specific power is going to be needed to help them get through that trial, which has continued to be the case. But I feel like a lot of times it's just been portrayed that Lilia is just this like washed up witch who does tarot readings and looks into the future and is kind of like not something that's practical. Even Agatha kind of had lines in this episode of being like, there's really no specific way to do this. You just put cards down and you do that and you do the other thing, which obviously was not true. But you can tell that maybe divination witches and psychics per se are maybe looked down upon more because they don't do more of a, I guess, technical style of witchcraft, for lack of a better term. Plus, we get these crazy bouts of her where she just isn't even paying attention. She goes and sees some things in the future, says them out loud, doesn't remember what she just said. She's kind of kooky and kind of wispy, right? But now finally seeing how, one, again, Lily has been living life essentially out of order. Now we were able to throw together and see how all of those visions slash premonitions that she's had in previous episodes, how they were actually supposed to be played out within like the timeline, I guess, and where they were supposed to happen was actually kind of wild to see. Everything that she did within this episode has come to a close to, one, satisfy her arc, but also really to save the entire coven. Once she finally realized that she was the one that she needed to do the reading for, and we've seen her throughout the show call out all these different tarot cards, and we weren't exactly sure what they meant at the time, but we didn't know the importance of them and her calling them out and in what order that mattered. And we finally got to see that this time. And also, again, going back to specific writing and just like the small details and things to think about, like the framing in each of the shots when Lilia called out the tarot card to the actual tarot card design are the exact same. Like, man, talk about one little details, but just like thinking of those things is mind-blowing that like the writers and everyone is thinking about that beforehand. Again, just like chef's kiss. But honestly, I feel like Lilia has done something that not many characters within the MCU have done. In fact, I'm gonna throw her up there with doing something, sacrificing herself for her coven as just as important as basically what we saw with Black Widow. As most of us know, Black Widow sacrificed herself to essentially save the world. Lilia did the same thing, just on a smaller scale for her coven. And I think this also gives her some closure because she saw into the future. She wasn't able to help save her coven from a long time ago, from the disease that pretty much ravaged everyone. But now she was able to finally use her powers and see into the future and save her coven, which is why she stayed behind also to continue to like promote their safety by pretty much killing almost all of the Salem 7 members, which I say almost all because I didn't catch it, but I saw someone say that they only saw 5 of the 7 land on swords, which makes sense given the fact that 2 of them are able to turn into birds and would probably fly away to save themselves. Lily was able to have redemption for her character and what she wasn't able to do within the past, which I think, again, is maybe what we're going to end up seeing. Is there are so many ties and correlations to the Wizard of Oz. I think that ultimately what every character is getting is they're realizing that they've always had something within themselves is truly what they're going to get at the end of the road, even if they don't make it to the end of the road. And Lilia has been basically ignoring her magic. She said in this episode that she's been ignoring her magic and that she's been lost basically this entire time, right? One, because she's always been looking into the past. And we learned in this episode that Lilia is not someone who looks into the past very well. We learned that she is a seer. She looks into the future. That's what she does best. But she's just been ignoring her magic. And part of that is because of the guilt that she felt that she wasn't able to save her coven a long time ago. But again, everything that she's had has been within herself. She just had to go and find it. For Agatha, I think Agatha, even though she doesn't necessarily want her powers, what she truly wants is to be accepted and be a part of a coven again and prove that she can actually be good. And I think that's what's going to end up happening at the end, because I do still think and go along the lines that I think that she's going to end up mentoring Billy, helping him hone his powers, kind of like how she did in the comics for Scarlet Witch. And that leads us to what Billy ultimately wants. Now, it's been theorized, right, that maybe he wants his mom, and obviously he's got some mommy issues that we saw in this past episode, saying that he doesn't have a mom. I think he's just mad that Wanda didn't come to find him, but he doesn't truly, I think, know or has made the connection that Wanda couldn't find him because of the sigil. The other thing is, like, obviously it seems like he wants his brother Tommy. I truly think that Billy wants family. And I think that's going to happen in like a kind of typical sense in future projects. Like, they're going to find Scarlet Witch, he's going to find Tommy, we're going to find Vision, all that stuff, right? But I truly think that ultimately he just wants a family. Now, he also has this identity crisis. He asked of like, is he Billy or is he William? I truly think moving forward, he's going to end up finding out that he is a mix of both, probably, characters. But ultimately, I truly think what's going to end up happening potentially at the end of this show is that Billy is going to end up realizing that he has a family within the coven. Now, the other big thing that we had in this episode is the reveal of who Rio actually is. Now, there's been lots of hints of who she actually is, of her being Death, or also known as Lady or Mistress Death, based on the comics. A lot of us already knew that she was Death going into this episode. We've just been waiting to see that reveal. Unfortunately, it was spoiled a long time ago. Thanks, Funko Pop. But just a quick aside, let's talk about her reveal, right? Like, it was kind of dark, but hopefully I've been able to brighten up this picture that's on the screen now. But like, her makeup and her costume, man, talk about some serious work from the makeup artist and the costume designers. Absolutely incredible. Now, there are some theories that Rio has been orchestrating these trials because she's trying to collect these bodies because essentially every one of these characters has been avoiding death. We know Agatha has been avoiding death for a long, long time. However, that goes back to that first episode with that exchange between Rio and Agatha of, they're not really able to kill each other. So I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out and probably learning more about that, obviously, in these last 2 episodes. But Billy has just escaped death, right? After he reincarnated himself into William. Lilia has been avoiding death this entire time. I'm assuming that she was supposed to die with her coven a long, long time ago. Alice clearly was supposed to die probably a long time ago thanks to her generational curse. However, the ballad has essentially always been playing somewhere, sometime, so she's always been protected and has been avoiding death. The part where the theory kind of falls apart is with Jen, because I'm not entirely sure where she was supposed to die and or if she has been avoiding death. That's where my theory on that falls apart. If you have thoughts, please put them down below in the comments. But for the last 2 episodes, I do think that we're going to see some more things that Lilia has done to help save the coven even further and or complete the road, basically. So we had that last exchange with Agatha at the end where she said, when she calls you a coward, hit the deck. And obviously Agatha was very confused, but Lilia was very sure in saying that statement to Agatha that it's going to be important. I think we've already seen this moment happen within previews of basically Agatha's like screaming up at the sky, everything around her looks green, and then we also have seen Rio kind of like floating in the sky with a bunch of green kind of like smoke around her for the most part. She also told Jen that she's the leader, right? She's the high priestess. She's the way forward. I still think that Jen is ultimately going to become the leader of this coven between her, Billy, and Agatha. And then lastly, Billy got his notebook of like magic back. And I truly believe that Lilia either put something in there or wrote a note or highlighted something that is going to be of significant importance to help save the coven as they continue down the road. I don't know about you, but I'm honestly excited for next week, but also very sad that this is going to end. Tell me all of your thoughts, your theories, put them down below in the comments. If you want more Marvel content just like this, please hit that like and subscribe button down below. If you want even more Marvel content and more of just like what I can give you, I have started memberships with on YouTube. You can hit join down below. If you want to join one of those things, that would be truly appreciated. Other than that, I will see you in the next video. And until then, Excelsior.